It's movie time, and we're back again with movie time. Hey, everybody, how you doing? I'm your host, Jason, and Shana Tov to all of us who are celebrating the new year. And with me, of course, is my co-host Arpo. Hey, Arpo, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Good to talk to you all. And somebody seems to be missing.
You ate him.
No, 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 no. I mean, our other co-host.
Yes, unfortunately, he will be joining us very shortly. He is
No, you made that
having.
sound like a bad thing. Oh, unfortunately, he'll be joining us shortly.
No, I said, oh, unfortunately, and he will be joining us shortly.
Oh, okay.
Let's try that in English. I know English today has been apparently not my first language.
No, you
So,
speak American.
yeah, if at any point in time over the show today I start lapsing, and by the way, this amazing look is brought to you by A, Mary Kay, and B, the fact that we were interviewed today.
Yes. Ooh.
Yes. So I am going to give a shout out. Well, I had the chance to the podcast that did that, which is called the Mad Tea Party, the Mad Tea Show. Now, please, Mad Tea Show people, we love you and thank you for interviewing us.
Yes,
So,
thank you for keeping out of my hair for 2 whole hours.
yeah, it's like so Mad Tea Party. It's like we just had that interview today, and it's really an interesting show. It's like in terms of that. So check them out if you have a chance. It's Roxanne and Robin. It's Roxanne and Robin who host the show, and they have really interesting topics as well. So there is my shout out to you guys, and thank you for interviewing us. And so Olaf will be joining us very, very shortly. In the meantime, as I was mentioning, Jewish New Year. So, yep, folks, we have aged yet one more year. Sorry, we get it 1 year. We get it a few months before you do, but that's okay. I get to get it twice.
Yeah.
We get to have it twice, Arpo.
Everybody says that the best consulate to work at, if you're an American, is the Israeli consulate because you get all the American holidays and all the Jewish holidays. So you really only work about 4 or 5 days a year.
There you go. Yeah. And tonight, so let's start off with our most with our most controversial topic, and that one you just brought up to us tonight, which is talking about The Walking Dead.
Yes.
An interesting new twist in the revelation of an interesting lawsuit. Go for it. Tell us all
Yes.
about it.
Well, Frank Darabont, as everybody knows, has not been really happy with the Walking Dead people ever since he got fired in the middle of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
He had an agreement with them that he was to be paid 20% of the show's, market value. Well, AMC has arbitrarily placed a market value of, and hang on real quick now, because I want to access the article to make sure I get this number right.
Yes.
And $2.4 million per episode, which
Wow.
is less than the value they assigned to Mad Men, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, all of which were less popular shows.
Mm-hmm.
So Darabont is saying, you know, they have artificially lowered the number to keep from having to pay me so as much. While, on the back end, they're cleaning up because the show is so hugely popular.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this could be taken as sour grapes by Darabont. Uh, I mean, he had a pretty raw deal. getting fired in the middle of the second season because they decided they didn't really need him to run their show. They were capable of having other people do it. I believe, in fact, they replaced him originally with Robert Kirkland, who is the man who wrote the original comics.
Yes.
And one could go with that, except that Kirkman, along with Gail Ann Hurd and several others of the showrunners, are also suing AMC for exactly the same reason.
Dun, 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 dun. New twist. Dun.
Yes. The judge in the case, her last name is Branston. Eileen Branston is actually getting pretty ticked off at AMC.
Now, do you blame her?
They keep changing their story. There was, before this was going to trial, there was 6 months where, as customary in any trial, the defense and the plaintiff had to exchange paperwork. And at that time, it was stated that no substantial changes could be made to any of the paperwork without the judge's approval.
No way.
Well, all of a sudden, AMC started paying Darabont more money.
Mm-hmm.
Like $3.5 million per episode.
Mm-hmm.
AMC's argument is that Darabont, by accepting this money, had consented to this new amount, and that this was now fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Darabont's attorney is claiming, no, we didn't consent to anything. You just started paying out more money, trying to put it into this case. Plus, you modified the paperwork, which you weren't supposed to do without the judge's permission. And they said, well, we sort of had the permission to do it. It was implied. And the judge is going, no, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
The judge has basically bench slapped AMC. AMC talked for 4 hours.
Yes.
Straight through. There was an hour break for lunch. But other than that, they spoke 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. And when they finally finished talking and it was time for Darabont's attorneys, the judge said, I can't hear any more of this today. So now Darabont's attorneys are all upset about, by the time we get a chance to go on record, the judge will have had time to digest everything AMC said and may be leaning towards making a decision, which is, in my opinion, not a fair assessment of a judge.
No. Well.
So it's going to be a story worth watching.
Mm-hmm.
And very interesting to see how this is all going to turn out, because there are a lot of deals like this in television.
Yes.
Where somebody was the showrunner for a while, and for whatever reason left or was dismissed or whatever,
mm-hmm.
and someone else took over. But the original showrunner was always supposed to get a residual on the entire series, because the idea is he was kind of the creating force. He's the guy that set everything up for future showrunners.
Mm-hmm.
So, if AMC wins this case, it could be bad for other showrunners.
It could be, or it could actually wind up setting a precedent either way.
Yes.
With regards to it. Now, I'm not taking either side on this, with the AMC side or the other side. That being said, it depends on what you signed when you signed off the contract. If you're looking at these other shows, we have no details on what the other contracts were, like Better Off Saul and Breaking Bad or any of these other series that he's comparing up to. Between each series, obviously, everybody negotiates what they do in a contract. Some people, it's like, okay, you know what, if their contract is up for renegotiation, then you have a little bit of leverage room, especially if a series is doing really well on that. Now, in this particular case, he was fired after the second season, correct?
In the middle of the second season.
In the middle of the second season, so he didn't even complete a second season. Kirkland took over for the show. Now, yes, he also is now part of the suit. It's kind of interesting that he is, as well as others. I think that the reason why they're doing that is because they pretty much also sit there and say it was a raw deal. Now, was it a raw deal? Yes and no. It's a raw deal if you were agreed to by percentages of the actual producing company. It's like of AMC. If they would have said to you, it's like, well, you're getting a piece of the kitty, and then they're not reporting correctly the piece of the kitty, because no distributor ever lies to the people of how much they actually make on shows, do they? Or fudge digits? Never.
Of course not. That would be unethical.
I know that would just be too. That would be like sitting there and saying, and I have swampland in Florida, I want to sell you. There are people who will fudge the digits. It is actually their job to be paid to fudge these digits.
Yeah.
As far as I am concerned. Because you know what they say, it's like distributors will do that. There are honest distributors. I'm not saying there is not. There are honest stations. I'm not saying that there isn't honest stations. I'm saying the skew of honesty. You know, it's like even a previous guests have said that, you know, it's a slippery slope there. You have to watch your figures and watch your contracts, first off. Second, the one thing that I would argue if I were on AMC's part is when he was initially negotiating the contract, he should have been really looking at the wording of it much more carefully on it to make sure that there isn't any back channel deals. There's been a bunch of back channel deals that ever happened with films for a while there too. They had distribution deals. Distributors took them and did third-party deals, even though because it was never written in there that they couldn't.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. What his contract read was he would receive 20% of the value per episode.
Yes. Now was that till he was terminated?
No, that part of the contract was not terminated.
No, I'm saying till he was terminated, or was that to be in perpetuity?
Yeah, it was to be in perpetuity.
Okay. Which is understandable.
How is the value of an episode computed? Well, by the size of the audience.
By ratings, by how many channels had picked up the series, how many secondary channels had picked up the series. There's a long calculation. It's not just by viewership.
Well, because right now it is exclusively an AMC property.
Yes.
All they have to go on is the audience share.
Yeah.
Okay, the audience share that Walking Dead commands is equivalent to the audience share of a nighttime NFL football game.
Okay.
The last show that had that kind of an audience share was ER. You know what an episode of ER is valued at?
How much?
$13 million.
So then that would have...
How do you turn around and say that The Walking Dead is worth only 2.4?
Okay, the reason why ER, though, was it was in a mainstream station that allowed for also substations to be able to do that. With Walking Dead, AMC doesn't have affiliate stations. They just now have actually gone onto mainstream stations in these last couple of years to back channel their previous years on there. Now, did Frank Darabont also hit also derivatives of the show, like Fear of the Walking Dead and stuff? If he had any part of those franchises as well, that could also be argued.
No, he did not.
Just Walking
AMC's
Dead.
argument is that the shows that were inferior in terms of ratings to The Walking Dead, Mad Men, Breaking Bad, etc., those were brought in by outside studios, Lionsgate, and Sony, to be precise. And that's why those shows were valued higher, is because they had to make the deal with AMC. AMC Studios produces The Walking Dead, and now, get this, AMC says they have no contractual deal with AMC Studios.
Okay. Because they're producing in-house, they have no deal with themselves.
Exactly.
Okay, so then what stops them from pulling the show from their own selves by themselves to move it to someplace else?
Yeah. Well, their argument is we could say $100 an episode because there's no deal between AMC Network and AMC Studios for this show. And they have actually threatened to do that.
Okay, and again, that would be fudging digits in a major fashion.
Yeah.
Because, okay, I understand that they do not have a metric because they just recently sold off to other stations in regards to that. I'm not sure. I think it was like 2 years ago. If I remember correctly, they now are on a mainstream station that's playing older episodes. Not the most recent seasons, but I think like seasons 1 to 5 or something. On I can't remember which station. It's blocked out of my mind. Pretty much because once I started watching it, and this last season.
Oh, that's true. They finally hit their 100th episode this past season, didn't they? Yes. Okay.
They did. They did hit 100th episode. So, in regards to that, then they're already in syndication mode. Yeah. Which again, it's like then there goes into a different part of the deal altogether. Oy vey when we're looking at syndication mode. But that being said, even if that wasn't the case whatsoever, let's just go into Fantasy Island here and say, okay, you know what? The only metric we have is people watching. Is their metric.
Yeah.
If you only took it at a viewership of a 1-to-1, he still owed more money.
Yeah, because the number of viewers affects how much they can charge for commercials.
Exactly.
Which is how any television show makes money, is from the commercials.
Yes. And also if they're trying to make a syndication deal as well. Like they just recently happened to have done.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at that, yes, Frank Darabont and company are entitled to more money if that's the way the deal was structured. Now, will AMC get away with it? Chances are no.
It's up to the judge, and the judge has made no qualms about the fact that she is pretty ticked off with AMC right now. AMC's defense, one of their defenses, and I love this part of the story, one of their defenses is that Darabont getting 20% of the show is the second biggest deal they've made in AMC history. That the only director who got a bigger percentage on a show was Steven Spielberg.
Okay, for Band of Brothers?
Well, that was on HBO.
Okay.
I forget what Spielberg did for AMC.
Me too. That's how utterly memorable it was.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's why Spielberg demanded such a high return, was because the show wasn't very good. No, I can't imagine anything Spielberg involved in that being very good.
Yeah.
But anyway, they kept raising this as an example of how good they were being to Frank Darabont. They kept saying, we paid him almost as much as Spielberg. I mean, come on, look at the comparison between Spielberg and Darabont. It reached the point where the judge finally said, if Spielberg's name one more time, I am going to book you with contempt.
Wow.
So the judge
Wow.
is right now not particularly happy with AMC. Now, does this mean the judge is automatically on Darabont's side? I don't think so. But that remains to be seen.
Exactly.
Story worth watching.
Yep. And honestly, the fact that it's like the rest of the producers came aboard, it makes me wonder what exactly has been these back end deals that they're making to begin with, and who had the sucky lawyers. Because apparently, it's like both sides had really crap lawyers.
Yeah, because I don't think that anything was put into place to determine the value of the show per episode.
Exactly.
And this is what AMC is riding on right now, is being able to say, and because they're right, technically there is no production deal between AMC and AMC Studios because AMC Studios is owned by AMC.
Yes. But yet at the same time, I'm sorry, but you can't have a deal with yourself. I guess that they just never drew up the document. And again, I'm going to say who was the stupid lawyers who did not do this.
Yeah.
And I'll say it on national television. How could you miss the big one like this? Where was like the people who are supposed to be protecting these parties?
That's right.
To actually define what the agreement is and who are you having the agreement with, because they can turn around and say, well, you had it with the studio, and since we don't have a deal with the studio, then you can't have a deal with the studio.
Yeah. I'm wearing the Walking Dead t-shirt.
Indeed.
In honor of this story tonight.
Very cool. So please understand, it's like this is the story that should be called When Lawyers Don't Pay Attention.
Yeah.
And people sign contracts stupidly.
Yeah, well, I'm sure all Frank Darabont's lawyer told him was, you get 20% of the show in perpetuity, no matter what happens.
Sign this.
Yeah, Darabont said, that's okay, that sounds like a good deal. And, there was nothing put into place to stop AMC from undervaluing the show.
Yes. By the way, I do welcome the lawyers to come from AMC into here and from Darabont's agency into here, because I'd really love to know how that one slipped by them.
Yeah.
On both sides. Really, really, I do. Feel free, come and defend bad lawyering. Of what?
Now you're going to make it sound like all lawyers are bad.
No, actually, not all lawyers are bad. A lot of them catch these kinds of things. I just want to know the Scoobies who didn't think of all of the scenarios. See, isn't that the idea of a lawyer, is to think of all of the scenarios and have their client actually, be covered on all of those things? What if the show goes huge? What if the show fails and stuff? Is there anything that's guaranteeing anything in between? Is there a minimum to a maximum that you receive? Is there a cap?
Yes, well, I believe it was, boy, we'll get hey, you want letters? We'll probably get letters on this now. I believe it was Henry V who, when talking about ruling, having authority, that said, first, kill all the lawyers.
Yes. Well, you know what? If it was, then perhaps he had a point there.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying he does. What I'm saying is that I would like to know who fumbled the ball.
Yeah.
And
And in
and
this
I
case, I would have to put the blame on Darabant's lawyers.
I'd put the blame on both sides because neither one of them protected their client.
Yeah, that's true.
When does a lawyer say that you don't need an agreement with yourself? I know people who are their own production company who have an agreement with themselves. As a writer, you have to have an agreement, even if you're the writer of your own project with your own self for your own company, to be able to produce your own film.
That's true. And if you don't pay yourself, you can actually sue yourself. Well,
Yes,
you could sue your own company.
exactly, for the value of it.
Yeah.
Or it's like what you could do then is it winds up nullifying any agreements of any licenses that you could have with any actors, any companies that take it on, any co-producers. It's like you can be causing yourself a whole bunch of hassle. So like I said, who dropped the ball? Who did not tell AMC that they needed to have a contract with itself?
There's something very Woody Allenish about that last concept. I'm just thinking about that. Let's see. I write a screenplay for my own production company. I then sue myself or sue my company for the value of the script
Yes, because I didn't
because
make a
I did.
contract with myself.
Yeah. That means I have to testify against my company, and then I turn around and have to testify against the
My,
writer.
against myself.
Yes. And it just reminds me of the scene in Bananas when Woody Allen was acting as his own lawyer and cross examining himself.
Yes. Very true. So yes, moral of the story is that when you receive any kind of contract, as we have made mention of in multiple shows, read it again, have your lawyer read it and read it again. Make sure
Then have your
all
lawyer
your
read it to you.
exactly, and then have your lawyer read it to you, and also go through it step by step every scenario. It needs to be covered. It's like you don't want to find that, you've sat there and said to somebody that, oh yeah, I have it completely covered.
Yeah.
And then you wind up getting sued. Because this is how cases come into court. Somebody
Yes.
drops the ball. And then somebody else is like, well, I thought that this was the interpretation of it. It's like, okay, I thought this was the interpretation of it. But no, I don't even have a contract with the thing I'm supposed to be interpreting. So why do I even need to worry about this?
Yeah.
And yeah, the judge is frustrated on a myriad of reasons, but should be frustrated on so many more
Yeah.
reasons than
And
that.
in closing, I will just say I hope for Darabant's sake, the lawyers representing him now are not the same lawyers that told him, yeah, this is a good contract, sign it.
Yes. Or else this is going to be one weird case.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but it's like this one's going to be tangled up for a very long time in the courts.
Oh, I know. Well, this is, I mean, it's gotten this complex, and this is still the pretrial hearings.
Yes.
The trial itself hasn't even started yet.
Yeah.
So
And
it's going to get insane. It's probably going to be a lot of fun to follow this story.
yeah, this is going to be the pre-72 recordings all over again.
Yes.
The Trogs case. The ones that Gordon has given us in his great podcast too. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, if you want to follow ones, like, just think of it this way. This is almost like that Marvin Gaye, Thick song.
Yeah.
It's going to be that long.
Yeah.
It's going to be blurred lines all over again.
Well, I'll tell you what. I will also say this in closing. Frank Darabont is upset when he sends out an email to colleagues saying, "Fuck you all for giving me chest pains because of the staggering fucking incompetence." One
Wow.
assumes that one copy of that email went to his lawyer.
Wow. My goodness, it's like, you know, wow. It's like somebody has got an angry thing.
Yeah. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. One of the joys of pod broadcasting is you can say the F word.
Yes, you can. Now we have an article also tonight on part 2 that was hoping that Olaf would have gotten here for this one, because this one also has a huge controversy that goes with it. But maybe we'll save this one for third. Let's talk a little bit about the Emmys.
Didn't see them, so go right ahead.
Okay. Here are the thoughts of the Emmys. It was a great thing, the Emmys. It was a fun award show. I enjoyed it very much. And for all of those who did not see the Emmy Awards, it was well worth seeing. They actually closed on time and opened on time. I was like, oh my God. There's a...
What kind of rinky-dink Emmy show is that?
I know.
No, actually, the Emmys has prided itself these past few years about finishing on time.
And starting on time, yes.
Yes.
That being said, however, brings me to the two things that was the 80th Donald Trump joke on the show. I get it. Yes, he's a joke all on his own. Do I like him? But it's the point is that it's like, okay, there can also be a point that it just gets to be okay. Like him or hate him, I think we're all joked out at this point, unless we're on a politically correct show. It's like, I watched John Oliver for that. I watched Bill Maher for that. I love their joking versions. I even watched Stephen Colbert show for that. The Emmys, I'm sure that they could have chosen other topics.
Well, it leads to the question of, what does Trump have to do with television awards?
Exactly. Oh, he didn't win for The Apprentice. That's why.
Okay, well, now that's something to joke about. Okay. Yes. The president of the United States wasn't even good enough to win an Emmy. Hello.
Yes. Yes, and they made very clear mention of that.
So what you're saying is he didn't get enough votes to win the Emmy.
Yes, he couldn't even win the popular vote that way.
Yes.
Which they had made mention of that joke. Retweet.
And that's okay.
Yes.
To joke about him with that.
Yes.
But if you're going to do 3 hours of Trump jokes during a show devoted to television.
Yes.
Not seeing the connection.
Yeah, he's a footnote.
Yeah.
He should not have been one of the main focuses of that. Again, love watching the other shows in regards to that, because I get interest from them of seeing those shows. Did not need to see 3 hours of that.
It sounds to me, like I said, I did not see the Emmys, but it sounds to me like maybe they were trying to show we can outdo the Oscars when it comes to Trump jokes.
Okay, and then they came on to the whole thing of diversity. I celebrate the fact.
The Oscars.
Yes. I celebrate the fact that the Emmys do have a very thing of diversity. But I think that you could count, I think I lost count at 100 times of how many times they said the word diversity.
Yes.
On one series of episodes. And it's like, yes, I understand. It's like, and I applaud you for being diverse. But then it came to the point of like, okay, yes, I get it. We are a diverse show. And we're dealing with diversity. And yes, there are a lot of people of diversity in television. And we are extremely diverse, and we have a diverse category. And then we had the very first person of like to be acknowledged in a certain category, like in regards to it, like you had the that one like Riz Ahmad being the first Asian man. Well, first of all, he is not Asian, but that's okay. If you really want to call him, it's like if you really want to do Asian, the first Asian man to win an acting Emmy. It's like, okay.
Well, he's from India, right?
Yes.
Technically, India is Asia.
It is, but again, it's like they could have said the first Indian actor to win an acting Emmy.
Well, that might have confused the audience because they might have gone, well, wasn't that Jay Silverheels?
Yeah, well, but you know what? He's very talented, Riz, and it's like, and I'm like, congratulations, that is awesome. It's like another one that Glover was one of the first African American people to do that. It's like in terms of a comedy series, and it's like great, and it's like the fact is I celebrate that. I'm not saying great like it's in sarcastic great. I'm like great like isn't that I'm glad that happened. And it's like basically they showed the fact of that, but it's like every 5 seconds using the word diversity actually, I hate to say it, diluted the fact that it's like it is diverse when you overuse a word.
Yeah. Suddenly diversity isn't so diverse when you say it 100 times. It starts to lose its meaning.
Exactly.
It's like Lenny Bruce trying to prove that words lose their meaning after a while and got into a black man's face and said the N-word like 100 times.
Yeah. After that, it starts losing meaning. Like, for example, Handmaid's Tale's Reed Moreno is the first woman to win a dramatic directing Emmy in 22 years.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, again, it's like these are all people that need to be celebrated. All of these categories that people did, it's like it's great and wonderful, and it's like, Lena Waithe also makes Emmy history as the first Black woman to win in comedy writing. It's like there are so many great moments here. Donald Glover making history as the first Black person to win directing comedy. It's like, yes, there's like some majorly important awards and stuff that went with that. And by the way, with the in memorandum, they found 3 people who were left out of the in memorandum, and people freaked. One of the major ones being Aaron Moran.
Oh,
was left out of there. There was a couple of others that were left out as well. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting their names. I do not just, it's like, I thought like all of the ones that they left out, I was like, wow, okay. That's really sad that you can't include everybody. That would have taken like 10 more seconds of footage. I think people would have been patient with that.
Well, I think they probably would have remembered Aaron Moran if it hadn't been for Joni Loves Chachi.
There you go. Joni Loves Chachi just killed it all, huh?
Yeah. I'm not making fun of Aaron Moran, everybody. I'm making fun of the Emmys.
There you go.
Please don't write me hate mail.
It's like, that's something that that you really want to think about. So it's like, you want it's like in terms of that, yeah, that is something that people do. It's like, yes, that has happened. So
see, now you've got me curious. So now actors out
Yes.
Emmys
But
in
did we mention that the show was diverse?
memoriam.
Yes.
Oh, was?
It was. It was
That's
very diverse. And it was
me.
diverse. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, Harry Dean Stanton was left. Excuse
Yes.
me. Harry Dean Stanton will be in next year's in memoriam. Okay, the man just died 2 days before the Emmys aired.
Yeah, they didn't
You
have
know
time
when
to
that
put him
in
in.
memoriam was made?
Yeah, well, Aaron Moran died further down the list and
Yeah,
could have
right.
been
No, Aaron
included.
Moran,
Yeah.
there's no excuse for.
Yes.
Mark Lamura, Charlie Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
Is he like Eddie Murphy's brother?
Yes.
Because boy, he looks like
Yes,
him.
he was.
Man, that's
Yep.
creepy.
Yep. It's like,
Yeah. But the Harry Dean Stanton, I give them a pass on that because that happened 2 days ago. Well, 2 days before the Emmys, I should say.
mm-hmm.
And,
Yes.
the in memoriam, trust me, was already put together.
Yes.
So, he will be topping the list next year, gang. I assure you.
Yeah.
And if he isn't, then bitch about it because he was a huge loss.
Exactly. It's been a lot of those things. So yeah, it's like that. That is something, and they may even get around to them by Oscar time
Oh yeah, I'm
in
sure they will.
February or in
Yeah,
Golden Globe time.
yeah.
So,
But now with all this diversity stuff that everybody's, the people are complaining. Well, they overdid it on the whole diversity thing. It got tired. It got boring. I think it's the Emmys overcompensating for the fact that all these years they've been kind of regarded as the Oscars black sheep brother.
mm-hmm.
And I think they were trying to use this to say, look at us. We're better than the Oscars because we have diversity. And we
Yes.
always have had diversity.
Well, you see, and I like the fact that again, I celebrate their diversity. But when you hear the words 2,500 times,
Yes, exactly. It
you're
loses
sitting.
its meaning, and all of a sudden it just becomes a matter of the Emmys doing it as a snub to the Oscar and not celebrating the fact of their diversity.
Yeah, and what it also is doing at the same time is really killing the word.
Yeah, and killing the whole concept of being diverse.
Yes, and it's a shame. It's like there's a lot to be done for it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Absolutely wrong of them, in my opinion. And I didn't even see the show. Of course,
Yes.
I kind of, you know, lost my respect for the Emmys the year the Emmys gave themselves an Emmy for Best Awards Broadcast.
Well,
It's kind of like, okay.
yeah, it's like yes, it's not really good.
It's like you would think that the Emmys would be the one show that maybe shouldn't be allowed to be nominated for an Emmy.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I was really shocked about is there were a lot of categories that did win Emmys that we didn't see, which I understand. Yes, you want to be succinct to 3 hours. But you know what? You could have, as you did the in memorandum reel, you could have also said, okay, here's the technical awards like they do with the Oscars and did like a 5-minute throw through of all the people who won technical Emmys.
Yeah.
That you didn't want to show.
Yeah.
Including best reality TV or whatever. Which, thank God, you did not show best reality TVs in a lot of ways.
Even though there's a lot of people who were probably waiting for that,
Yeah, like best daytime talk show and all of that.
Well, best daytime. Well, don't they do daytime Emmys anymore? Oh no, they stopped those.
They stopped those.
That's right.
Because
there wasn't enough quality daytime programming to out of so many soap operas, there was nothing left to nominate.
Exactly. It's like it's really great.
Yeah. Yes, the days when soap operas ruled the daytime are gone. How many are left now? Like 5, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, in its heyday, there was. Well, I can remember as a child, there was at least 20 soap operas. And now, granted, they were a half hour each, so they could make twice as many.
Yeah, that's true.
And in fact, the format of going to an hour caused the decline of a number of really good soap operas. The Edge of Night was superb. It was a mystery soap opera.
Yep.
They would spend 3 or 4 months on solving a mystery, and it was great watching.
Yes.
But I guess there wasn't enough housewife fantasy escape in it, because eventually it was gone.
Well, and now it would be pretty much the daytime talk show awards.
Yeah,
pretty much. It's like, and a couple game shows.
Yeah.
In between by day.
Yeah.
But that would pretty much cover daytime television.
Even game shows are starting to lose their ground. I mean, all you have left are the real basic classics.
Like Price is Right, which will never die.
Yeah. And Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy.
Yes.
Jeopardy may die with Alex Trebek. Who knows? I don't know who they would get to replace him.
I could think of a few people.
Yeah, but definitely not Wolf Blitzer.
No. I was thinking more Jim Parsons.
Who holds the record for being the worst Jeopardy player ever.
Yes.
What a terrible moniker to be stuck with when you're a CNN analyst.
Yeah. That's like, yes, that would be pretty bad. But like I said, probably somebody like Jim Parsons. If you play a genius on TV, why not host a show that geniuses need to play?
That's right.
I nominate him if Alex Trebek passes away ever. To be the next host of Jeopardy.
He's not allowed to be snarky.
Oh, come on.
Well, there's not enough time for it.
Yeah, like Alex Trebek hasn't gotten his jabs in on somebody.
If he's going to be snarky, then they're going to have to cut each round down to 3 categories.
Yeah, well, and like as though that Alex Trebek has never been snarky at people. The condescension sometimes in his voice just drips out.
Oh yeah, I will grant you that, but he doesn't waste a lot of time on it,
Yeah.
But every once in a while, yes, I do like when he kind of chides, like especially if everybody gets the final Jeopardy answer wrong, and he goes, I guess we've all forgotten about this and this and this. It's like, well, it's easy for you, Alex. You got the card in your hand.
Yeah.
No, I will say this for Alex Trebek. He is a very intelligent man, and he
He
really
plays one.
knows.
Yeah, he plays one on TV too.
Well, he is the ideal. It would be interesting to have a guest host and have Alex Trebek be in a Celebrity Jeopardy tournament.
That would be cool. And I have to admit one other thing. It's like this was a good jump for Alex Trebek over Pitfall
Yes.
to
Yeah.
get the Jeopardy gig. Because
Yeah.
Pitfall, I love the actual premise of the show for Pitfall when I was like 12.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty glad that that one ended pretty fast
Yeah.
in
And besides,
popularity history.
Alex Trebek was a bit too dry to host a show like that.
Yes. You needed somebody a little bit more like Ryan Seacrest.
Yeah. Someone to bring some pizzazz.
Yeah.
Like a Bert Convey. Whatever happened to Bert Convey?
I think he passed.
That's still no reason why he can't host a show.
I know, right? Or somebody like Chuck Barris at the time should have hosted Pitfall.
Yeah, really. I'm sorry, one of the greatest game hosts of all time was Chuck Barris on The Gong Show.
Yeah. Now, he would have been funny in doing Pitfall.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So, moral of the story is that the Emmys was a really interesting award show. What's also nice is the fact that it's like the way that they set up the people for the categories. They didn't allow them also to go through long speeches, which I really have to thank the network for that. But a couple of speeches should have gone, they should have given a little bit of room for that. Maybe, like an extra 30 seconds wouldn't have killed you on a couple of them. But really,
that's the thing with the Emmys. I mean, that's part of the reason why they stay, on schedule. It's because they don't just bring up the music; they kill the mic.
Yeah.
But 1 year they did that for somebody getting a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah.
And it's like that was inappropriate.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, for example, they had the 40th anniversary of Roots.
Yeah.
They had Cicely Tyson there, who played the original Kissy from Roots, and then they had the original. Then they had the one who just did the redo of it. I think who also played Kissy from Roots. And again, audience did not watch Roots the remake. I watched Roots only the original. So if I'm wrong of who she played, again, call in, phone in, leave messages and say, write in.
We love reading mail.
Yes, and I'll read it on the air, and I'll correct the little faux pas if that isn't who she played. But I think that was the whole idea there. And it's like it was really, like I said, it was nice because it's like also some of the pairings that they had of the Emmy people that they had. It's like, they played really well off of each other.
Yeah.
And poor Cicely Tyson was just so nervous. It's like she just had to be held during that whole time. She's like, I'm just so nervous. And it's like, oh my God. And I don't blame her, really, because it's like, that was one beautiful series, Roots.
Yeah.
And honest to goodness, it's like, did it really need a redo? No. But it's like, you know what, whether, again, because it was just a beautiful series as it is, the redo, it wasn't so horribly horrid either.
Yeah.
Which brings us, though, unfortunately, it looks like Olaf will not be joining us tonight. Huh, interesting. I guess the Kentucky Derby just ate him. The Derby night just ate him.
It must have been a really good show.
It must be a fantastic show.
because usually he walks out at the intermission
or at the end of the show, and then
or
drives
at the
yeah,
very end and drives like a bat out of hell
yes,
to get home for this.
yeah,
So
and I'm sure he'll be joining us on the Friday show. But then let's go on to our third and final topic of the night. Hollywood's use of stolen computer technology tests ownership theories. Now, here we go with an interesting one. And this lawsuit is a really interesting one. In a bid to dismiss a lawsuit, Disney, Fox, and Paramount distinguish between human and technological output. What's considered to be performance, folks? Well, they're basically saying it's composed in Word documents, and that it's one of the things of, is it a human performance or is a CGI performance still considered a performance? There, because they're saying on Friday, Fox and Paramount argued against Microsoft-friendly ownership theory in fighting a bold lawsuit thrown by Reardon LLC. The dispute covers such films as Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers, Age of Ultron, Deadpool, The Night of the Museum, The Secrets of the Tomb. Could make its mark in several fronts of intellectual property laws. Now, this article I found extremely interesting because it's talking about the idea of the CGI performance. Is it an actual performance, or is the human performance a performance? And where can you use these things? Because Reardon was founded around the turn of the century in Silicon Valley by Steve Perlman, for all of those who don't know. And it's like they basically create computer graphic effects. So technology was perhaps famously used in Brad Pitt getting younger in Curious Case of Benjamin Button. So it's been used in a lot of things. Now, according to Reardon, it's like who is basically close to who was once close to Perlman before falling out before they fell out. He alleges that the transfer of MOVA, which is what they call this technology,
which by the way,
yes,
which by the way is also Reardon's last name. His name is Reardon Mova.
Yes.
So I mean, if there's any question about does he own the original patent on this?
Yes.
I don't think that's in question.
No, that is not the question. The question is copyright in regards to that, because they said that he transferred the MOVA tech to various non-Reardon entities, including Digital Domain and Hollywood FX Company. Later, Digital Domain 3.0 would be acquired by a different person, and therefore it's like it basically what was then acquired by China. This set off an FBI investigation into the economics of espionage when the court fight where Reardon was scored to wins against Digital Domain. And in fact, Reardon has obtained an injunction with the final judgment and the case pending and appeals coming. But in the meantime, all of these distributors, Disney, Fox, Paramount, Crystal Dynamics produces Tomb Raider video games, which have been dragged into this mess because they contracted using MOVA. So it's like who may have been using illegitimate software that was illegitimately provided. Now, the question in these follow-up lawsuits is whether Reardon can do anything to punish the studios for using stolen technology. Since he claims he didn't actually sell it to them, and this has now been proven in a court of law, according to them, can he then sue them for those technologies? And he's asserting that the copyright, trademark, and patent claims, which the studio now attacking the motion pictures to dismiss. So let's take the claims one by one. Let's try copyright. So what do we think that the major argument in copyright is here, Arpo?
Well, the major argument for copyright is that the finished product uses MOVA. This is Reardon. This is Reardon's argument. The final product used MOVA, therefore they can be sued for that product. Now,
Yep.
the response to that is that copyright belongs to the artist who created the product, not the person who made the tools.
Yeah. They argue that MOBA was only the tool,
Yeah.
not the actual end product.
It's like, if an artist uses a particular kind of brush to make a painting, can the people who made the brush sue that they should own the copyright to that because it was their brush that was used in the painting? No, of course not.
No.
It's the artist who created the painting.
Yes.
Ergo, the artist owns the copyright. Okay, this is the same argument. The Disney's people created the final look.
Yes. But where they lost the copyright is the fact that it's like they were using this tech, which is also something that a lot of virtual reality companies like Second Life and all of that, let's say in regards to that, also iClone other softwares as well, in regards to CG and other CG companies that say you may be the creator of the actual design of this, but because you're using our software, ergo, if you did not use our software, it would not have been created. We've given you a set of patterns that were designed within our software, so that actually the copyright belongs to the software company. Even though, yes, you are the copyright owner of the actual item itself that you created, because it was created on our software, we equally own that right by using that software. It's like in Second Life.
Kind of like what Lionhead Studio did with their movies game. You can
Yes.
create your own movies, but you can't make any money off of them because you're using our software.
Yes. So basically, it's like you could create your own content for display. And like I said, for example, with Second Life and machinima use, it's like you can make machinima all you want in Second Life.
Yeah.
You can't sell it to anybody without giving Second Life credit in terms of that. But if there was a product that Second Life had actually created out of their virtual world environment, and you chose to use it, you're getting into the territory of copyright. And like anytime you make the mod out of any iClone, any movie store, any of these softwares, yeah, you own the right to the mod, but you don't own the mod itself.
Yeah.
You own the actual design itself is yours. Because you use the software to create this design, then that is the argument that they're using.
And that's pretty much Riordan's argument.
Yes.
But and that's why this is going to be this first aspect of it is going to be very, very interesting to see what kind of decision is made on it, because it's going to affect a lot of what Hollywood is doing now. This could bring around the downfall of the big tent blockbuster.
Exactly.
Or the tentpole blockbuster, I guess I should say.
Well, what it will do is it'll cause them to have to create software again, and then you're going to get into another ILM situation.
Yeah.
And it may knock out virtual reality software as a player in there as well, for going beyond storyboarding ideas and concepts. Yeah. So what they're saying, but mind you, it's like when you're talking about this, you're talking about it in three different parts of a case. You're talking about the copyright use of the actual product itself, and if the product was a stolen product, then yeah, he has also grounds to stand on of, I never gave you permission to use this.
Well,
it was stolen from me.
Studios, okay, Madam Attorney.
Mm-hmm.
In defense,
yes,
the studios paid for the product.
Yes.
They didn't know it was stolen.
Exactly.
So, the fact that they paid for it, they felt they had the right to use it.
Yes.
Now he's going to come along and say, okay, that was stolen from me, therefore you shouldn't have used it. Well, okay. That's too late for that.
Yeah.
If you want to say you cannot use it in the future without paying me,
Well,
that's a perfectly legitimate argument because there's no question that the technology was stolen from him.
absolutely. But then he's arguing also it behooves again the studio to do their due diligence to find out if the software is legal or not. And again, I'm going to it's like on the line of who dropped the ball. Go if the software doesn't have clearance in regards to it, but you know what, there's also things that people cannot pick up, lawyers included, cannot pick up on it. It's like by all means they thought that this Chinese company owned that, so that's why they use the software.
Yeah, because it's not like the Chinese company is going to say, yeah, well, in fact, the Chinese company, when they bought it, they thought they were buying legal stuff. The Chinese didn't steal that software.
No,
they purchased it too.
From Digital Domain.
From Digital Domain.
Yes. Which
technically stole the stuff, but didn't know they were stealing it because Perlman gave it to them. So if anybody is responsible for the theft of Reardon's product, it's Perlman.
Yeah.
So sue him for that. Make an out-of-court deal with the studios that used the stuff without realizing that is stolen. Okay, 1% of any money you made on a picture using the technology, whatever, a small deal. And now, if you want to continue to use it going on, you have to pay me.
Exactly.
To me, that's the only logical and fair conclusion to this whole mess, because it's not the studio's fault. It's not Digital Digital Dimension 3D, whatever. It's not the Chinese. It's not the Chinese fault. It's not the original Digital Domain fault.
No.
It's Perlman's fault. And Perlman, I'm sure, was taking on, because he owns the company that Reardon worked for.
Yep.
I'm sure he's taking on the you work for me, therefore any idea you have is technically owned by the company.
Well, this was also dealt with in a whole work for hire versus actual are you the owner of the work, because some of the original work that certain Marvel people had, it's like a lot of Kirby's stuff is owned by Kirby's estate. That there is no doubt, but it's like a lot of people have argued work for hire by other people who have worked for Marvel, for Warner Brothers, for other companies, that they were a work for hire, even though because the characters belong to the company.
Yeah.
Anything you derivative of, it's like basically Bugs Bunny belongs to Hanna-Barbera, to Warner Brothers. As he's always been a Warner Brothers character, Bugs Bunny, no matter who draws him. They all drew him slightly different.
Yeah.
Their artistry is theirs, but the character of Bugs Bunny will always and forever be Warner Brothers property.
Yes.
Well, it's using the same argument here. It's like, yes, you developed the software while being under my employ by using my materials to be able to do this. And my codes and all of that. Therefore, it's like he technically sits there and says, well, it's like using the argument there of, well, then I had the right to do that. However, because this was an actual physical work, developed independent software in there, it's like that comes into very sketchy categories. And this is where it's going to be dealing with IP diligence.
Yeah.
It's like, and whether the IP was in that and the contract of the work relationship between the companies. So if we haven't confused you guys all enough.
Well,
this is a big jambalaya.
Yeah, this is a very confusing case. It's a lot of different little parts that are coming together. But strictly in terms of the copyright, I don't think he has a strong enough case against the studios for past productions.
For future tech, or for even having, or for even holding the tech. He does.
Yeah.
For currently having the tech and holding on to the tech, yes. You can tell them to immediately they have to dismiss it, and any derivatives of that work or any future derivatives of that work have got to be erased because it was not given of his permission to be able to use it.
Or
settle.
Pay me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Settle. Let's settle. Pay me for my. But this brings us to the next point.
Mm-hmm. And also, there's also controversy of whether he actually owns MOVA software to begin with.
That's right. Now we get into the trademark argument.
Yep.
Okay, MOVA has his name on it.
Yes.
If you want to look at it from a certain point of view, my name is MOVA. I named my program MOVA. Ergo, I hold the trademark. I hold the trademark on my own name.
Mm-hmm.
When I made Rich Posh Productions for my machinima work,
Mm-hmm.
That's based on my name. I own the trademark on my name.
Yes.
Nobody else can use my name as part of their trademark because, and this of course is the problem, is that in the credits of a lot of these movies, the name MOVA Technology is used.
Yes.
Okay.
They did credit him for it.
Yeah. And since anybody owns the trademark on their own name, it can reasonably be assumed that he has the right to say, you can't put that in there without paying me for it.
However,
that's my name.
Yeah. However, even though that's your name, that may not be your product. That's still yet to be determined.
Right. And that's where the patent lawsuit comes in.
And that's also where
owns the patent.
Yes. Also, another thing of who really owns the copy rights to that software, because it's like if it is Perlman who did, Perlman had the right to sell it to DD 3.0, and 3.0 had the right to sell it to the Chinese people. Are you pissed that it's like your software went out there with your name on it? You could be. But again, it's one of those things that's dealing with facial recognition software. And one can also argue that the MOBA kind of software that we're talking about with the transformations and everything like that has now been used into real life applications as well. So, and there's a similar one when they want to do facial recognition software in regards to, CCTV and stuff like that. So then therefore it's all yours. You need to also prove that that was the exact software that was used only.
Yes, because there is an important distinction. Just because you hold the patent, it does not logically follow or legally follow that you automatically own the copyright.
Exactly.
It's a mess.
It is.
It's going to take them years
to
unravel all of this. This is going to go on for a long time.
Yep.
Because there is absolutely nothing about this case that is clear cut.
Yeah. And this is another one that it's like, it's the, do you really own your own work when you work for somebody else? And even though you're independently contracted by them. And you may have been working, but it's like, again, who owned the original computer that did the software?
Right.
So.
And in all fairness, I should point out that I don't know that much about the law. I am not a lawyer, but I have seen one on TV. So.
Yes. Also, it's like we do welcome in this particular case if a lawyer would love to come on the show and talk to us about this case specifically, because it is brand new. It just happened literally 2 days ago.
And it's so convoluted that it's really, the article that was it. What was it? It was the Hollywood Reporter.
Yes.
The original article appeared in. Yeah, I mean, it is so filled with convoluted law terms and some kind of arcane references that if you're not an expert in legalese, it's really almost kind of hard to follow the article at points.
Yes.
Because you start to lose track of who they're talking about for what. And this is where we really could use the help of a lawyer to help us to unravel exactly what this case is about. Because it is going to have long-term ramifications on the future of CGI in Hollywood.
Exactly. And it's also going to be very controversial too. Also, is the actor the performer or is the software the performer?
Hey, look who's by the mailbox.
Oh my goodness.
Good evening, all.
Good evening. You came on the tail end of our show.
You came just in time for us to say, so Olaf, how do we get in touch with you?
Exactly. Wow, that must have been some night.
Oh, it has been a long night. I just got home from my meeting, so it's turned out they was a little long-winded tonight. So,
oh goodness,
it's like, but it is the last meeting before the festival, so.
I suppose you had to stay.
Yeah.
Well, he couldn't very well sit there going, "Shut up, shut up, shut up! I've got a show to do."
So like, all right, it's like, I kept wanting to say, "Are we done yet? Are we done yet?"
Okay, well that's good. But now that you're here, you can weigh in on our topic. So, what do you think of all this?
Exactly.
I think it's the most wonderful thing that ever happened, and if that's not the correct answer, I think it's just absolutely absurd. How's that?
Absurd works.
Absurd does work.
Okay, then we will go with absurd because I have no clue what you're talking about. So
yes,
I know we love doing that to you.
Yes, I know. It's like
does it not cause you outrage?
It absolutely does. It causes me so much outrage. I couldn't even make it here on time. It outraged me so much.
There you go.
He actually had to drive 2 miles an hour because he was so outraged.
A mile and a half.
The future of CGI is in jeopardy because there goes his entire enjoyment of the movies.
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's like, yes, that's what I think. Oh my God, I am just beyond, outraged. It's like, if they're going to do away with CG, that's it. I'm done with movies.
Yep.
Is that outrage enough?
Yes. No, they're not going to do away with it, but there is. Well, you'll have to read the article that Grayson sent you because what happens in this particular legal case is going to have, as I was saying just before you came on, long-term ramifications on the future of CGI in Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Because I can't imagine that Reardon is the only one. If he wins this case, I think a lot of people are going to come out of the woodwork and say, "Well, hey, wait a minute.
What about me?"
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to start a whole shitstorm of people in cases. So yeah, this is one that you'll want to read, Olaf, the one that I sent you.
Okay.
Yes, and look for Age of Ultron, and look for the Avengers Infinity Wars to come out in the year 2025.
Oh boy.
If allowed at all.
Yeah.
With this particular. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, only because if Reardon wins, Disney/Marvel may find themselves having to start from scratch, reinventing the CGI that they need for this movie instead of having it already plugged in. And they'll have to scrap everything that they've done so far. It's
It's a controversial case at the very least.
It is. It is very controversial.
They just can't. People just can't leave well enough alone. They gotta mess with it all the time, don't they?
Actually, in this particular case, there is a legitimate reason behind it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as long as you're here, how do they get you in social media?
Well, you can stalk me on both Facebook and Twitter at Olaf Barbosa, but just don't stalk me too close because I do get nervous and I do have an itchy trigger finger.
And I just want you to know, Olaf, that if you had
Yes.
not made it here at all, I was prepared to do that for you.
Awesome. Thank
There
you.
you
It's
go.
like you got you. I think I know. I know. You always got my back, don't you, bud?
Yep.
Yes, indeedy.
That's like
And Arvo?
was a target on it, but you still got my back though.
Mm-hmm.
So, somebody said my name.
How do you also? Yes. How do they capture you in social media?
Capture me? Oh, God, I hope they don't capture me. But if they want to be social with me, they can talk to me on Facebook. If they want to do some business, I am on LinkedIn. That's what that's for. And if you just want to just generally chat, you can always feel free to Skype me. I love to chat. Don't have as much time to do it these days as I have in the past, but I'll still give you a howdy.
There you
And
go.
the only thing I request is that you make sure to mention that you are a fan of the show Movie Time with Grace and Sonata. Because I get way too many offers from Armenian girls who want to marry me and robots who want my charge card number.
There you go. And for me, you can get me in social media on LinkedIn, Bizopedia, on Facebook, on Twitter at Sonata Grace, and at Movietime Indie, as well as you can also get me on basically, goodness, 4 pages of internet things, as well as also it's like welcome to all of our podcasters. And again, we welcome tons of fan letters from all of you telling us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and heck, what we are doing. And by the way, for all those who didn't hear it at the beginning, Shana Tova, and hopefully it's a good new year because we've just started our new season.
Indeed. Good night, everybody. Boy, am I thirsty.
Woohoo!
Night night.
Nighto. Thanks.